Atlanta Fulton County.
Have but one objective.
Purple color I see. Then you maintain the status.
December 7th, 19...
A question, a psychopath.
The Orby has not.
It's a really big shoe tonight.
Will you stifle yourself?
Hey! Off we go.
Dynamite! Stop now, will you? Hello.
Thank you very much. Who you call the dummy, you big dummy?
Well, if the shoe fits, step it.
Till next week. Nanu. Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this is what am I on? It's tonight's TV lineup right here on the DJV Productions Network. Hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell. Leave us some comments. Of course, we always want to hear from everybody. We do hope you guys enjoyed today's show because it's going to be a great one. We're going to be talking about a man that does not exist and a car that needs no insurance. We're talking about Knight Rider. That's right. This was a tremendous show that came out in, I believe, 1981 or 82. We're going to be talking about the show, any spinoffs, any stuff like that, the toy line that came after it, everything like that. It's going to be a hell of a show today. But first, let's get into who's watching TV with me. I got my friend Jason Leach on the line here.
What's going on, good people?
What's up? We got also watching television with us today, Matt Sunner.
Good morning, everyone.
How amazing is that? And then watching TV here, watching the show possibly for the first time, we got Chris Gordon.
Yeah, just discovered the television. It's an amazing.
So with that being said, it's a wonderful day here on that tonight's TV lineup. I keep trying to say a different show that I'm not going to be on today. Guys, first off, Knight Rider. When I first saw the original commercials for like the pilot, I was like, "Wow, this looks really cool. This looks really, really cool." And in the 80s, we loved sci-fi and like dark, brooding sci-fi shows like majorly. Remember, this is the time of like Tron. This is the time of Road Warrior. This is the time of where like or like what's the name? What was that movie with the black hole? If you guys remember
Black
that?
Hole.
It's called the Black Hole. Yeah.
And what was the other one with the Walton boy, with John Boy from the Waltons? Battle Beyond the Stars.
Yes.
Right. Not to be confused with Circus of the Stars, which was also on around that same time. But
you just said like the John Boy from the Waltons, and all I heard was Waltons, and I was like, "What is this? Like Waltons in space?" What was that called?
It was Battle Beyond the Stars.
Oh, Battle Beyond the Stars. Okay.
Yes, that had George Papard in it, and it had John Boy. Because I don't know that guy's name, but he'll always forever be John Boy to me.
Yeah.
Amongst other people, and that was like the fated attempt to try and battle Star Wars at that time. But Knight Rider comes out, you're like, oh wow, this guy looks like a secret agent, and he's got this really cool car. And in a sense, we really didn't know anything about the show because the promos didn't give you that much, And then we get this amazing thing where we have this cop that is working in a casino of all things in the opening of Michael Long, and he goes out and he gets shot in the face. Like, wow. Yeah. Like, forget about the bullet doesn't go through his skull and blow out the back of his head.
Well, again, as more of the gun kind of guy in the room, it's very possible to get shot in the face and not die.
I got shot in the face.
No, depending upon trust me, I've actually seen shows where guys brought into the ER been shot in the face like 5 times, but it kind of goes in through the cheek, goes out, whatever. Yeah. It's more or less indirect shot. So I mean,
they shot him dead on. I mean, come on.
I know, but you can play it off.
And so Michael Long,
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. Well, Michael Long was definitely hanging long because that son of a bitch gets shot in the face and then lives to tell about it. He gets pulled in by Devin Miles, who is the leader, in a sense, of the Foundation for Law and Government. We don't
An organization that technically does not exist.
Yes.
It is a deep ops.
And what was Old Man Knight's name? Because the Knight is the old man's Knight. It wasn't Michael.
Yeah.
It was something else. Man in the Chair. If you could find that out real quick.
Okay.
But they're funded by this Mr. Knight, who Matt's going to find out his first name. He's an old man, Thornton Knight or something like that. I think it was.
It was something to that effect.
Yeah. And they create the Knight Industry 2000 vehicle, and basically, it wasn't really a vehicle. It was the operating system. It was the computer that you see behind Matt right now. And what they did was they said, well, you know what? This Michael Long, since we took him in here and they shot his face off, let's get him redone, and we'll do his car up and use his car as the shell for the Knight Industry 2000, and hence we get KITT, KITT, the Knight Industry 2000. Milton Knight, Wilton Knight. There you go, Wilton with a W. Don't let him tell you anything different. And so therefore we start this crusade of a man who does not exist, because Michael Knight is completely erased, much like Men in Black. Yeah. Erased from existence.
Michael Long is gone. Facial reconstruction.
Yes.
Again, it was the tagline was enter into a shadowy world of a man that does not exist.
Yes.
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 The
shadowy.
The shadowy world.
Very shadowy. His world
Yeah.
was. So therefore, we get these amazing adventures with Michael and the thing. And I think the thing about the show was the Knight Industry 2000 vehicle, KITT, if you will, who was voiced by what's the name, Daniels?
God.
Matt, have the cast up, would you please?
Yeah, I will. I will keep it all up.
That was William Daniels.
William Daniels. Thank you,
Yes.
Chris. Thank you, Chris. And who was also simultaneously playing a doctor on St. Elsewhere. Or no, was it St. Elsewhere or ER?
Yeah, St. Elsewhere.
No, St. Elsewhere.
It was St. Elsewhere, right. I got my medical dramas, I think. But he was doing double duty. So his FaceTime was on St. Elsewhere.
Man's got to work.
Yeah, and he was working like a son of a bitch.
Striking the iron's hot, man.
For you younger people, this was was he the principal or the teacher on Saved by the Bell?
Yes.
He was one of them, right? He was the.
Is that how he kind of coasted out of his career?
Yeah, pretty much as the guy.
No, I don't mean that disparagingly. I'm just saying, okay.
It was definitely disparagingly because,
No, I don't mean it to sound that way. But
not you. I'm just saying, technically, yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Saved by the Bell. It was Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. Thank you, Matt.
I don't know anything about any of those shows.
Yeah, Boy Meets World.
Remember,
he's
not a TV.
He's on that show towards the end of his career. But he was doing St. Elsewhere as the lead doctor. So it wasn't even like a recurring role. This guy was like the head doctor on St. Elsewhere, while he was the voice of KITT, which was growing exponentially. This show was a hit from its first episode, never had trouble with ratings at all. Wow. And so many great things come from it. And we'll try and talk about it all today. About what goes on with it, from who Michael Knight's face was reconstructed to look as, for other rejected people in the Knight Industry 2000 family, the Big Semi, and also the spinoff shows. We're going to talk about the spinoff shows as well, which will also get their own episodes on here as well. So I'll start with Jason. Jason, tell me about your memories of Knight Rider.
I remember when I was a kid, well, even now, everybody wants KITT. Everybody wanted that car.
Yes.
Even today, I want that car, and the abilities to do everything that it can. I looking back, I realized that David Hasselhoff was not the star of that show. It really was the car. Mm-hmm. And the car was the voice of reason. It was the smart one in this buddy cop thing, and just to be able to jump, you just shot off a ramp, you jump without any ramp or anything like that. And, just the speed and the bulletproof of the car and all that stuff. Everybody just wanted that. But as a kid, I thought David Hasselhoff was like the coolest. I should say Michael Knight was the coolest dude. He dressed awesome. I wanted to get a leather jacket just like him and the shades just like him, you know. So as a little kid, it was like, you know, your dream show, honestly. But when you look back, there's a lot of cheese involved with it, but it's cool, you know, because you can sit back and laugh at it now, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Good, solid show. It was a juggernaut for a long time. How many years was it up?
Let's see here.
4 years. The original, it was 82 to 86.
Yeah.
And then it spun off to what, Airwolf?
Well, no, one spin-off was Code of Vengeance from 85, which only lasted a year.
That was one movie.
Okay.
That was only one movie, actually, and I wanted to talk about that because a lot of people don't realize that even existed, which is kind of funny. And I actually watched that. It's available on YouTube. You can watch that, Code of Vengeance, and it was literally just and considered a time. It was a Vietnam vet that was on an episode of Knight Rider, and did his own thing, and he's traveling around, much in the way of like a David Banner, where he's going from town to town and he's just like solving people's issues. You know what I mean? He's getting in people's fucking business. Is what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's not doing the Rambo route where he's just like avoiding things by all the things. He's like, hey, what are you doing? You know, like he's getting up in people's shit. I could see why it didn't take off, because without all the Knight Rider and stuff like that, all you had was the violence of Knight Rider without any of the panache. So, you know what I mean? So you get that and that type of thing. And the funny thing was, in the show, the biggest tie-in to Knight Rider is that he's in the house and you hear actually the show Knight Rider playing in the background on the television.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's not even like he knows Michael Knight and Michael Knight's a real person. Now Knight Rider's on the television. It's a TV show. In his
world. Nowadays we call that an Easter egg.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, what a dumb Easter egg that was. In a sense,
it's more or less like, hey, if you look at this guy's face and say, I saw him in something before, that little Easter egg, oh, that's where I saw him.
You know,
that's exactly
but Airwolf was the other big one, and we'll talk about that later on too. There were so many other shows that were actually even modeled after it that you can't even say were spin-offs, because they weren't attached to the show. But there was the Highwayman, was a big one that came out, and I think
Highwayman.
Yeah, that had.
You're not talking about the HBO thing, are you?
No.
Okay,
Highwayman had Roddy Piper in it. Matt, look the Highwayman up. I think that I want to say it had Flash Gordon in it. To be honest with you. I think it had Sam Jones on it. I think, but I could be wrong on that. But basically, it was a tractor trailer that unhinged, and it was a helicopter that came out of the tractor trailer.
Yeah, the Highwayman, Sam J. Jones.
There you go. See, it was Flash Gordon. See, I brought it back to you, Chris.
There you go.
There you
go. Let's see here. Let's go to our.
Had Roddy Piper in it.
Series starring a big high-tech 18-wheeler. The driver, the title's Highwayman, is one of a team of federal marshals empowered to right wrongs, quote, where ordinary laws do not reach, and to haul special cargo. The truck was heavily armed and had a cab that turned into a helicopter for quick escapes.
Boom. It lasted one episode. I think no. How many episodes did it last?
Let's see here. Hang on.
I want to say like
10 episodes.
10 episodes. You never saw that. They never aired. You saw like 2.
I definitely don't remember that.
No, sure. Yeah, dude. Let me tell you something. You didn't watch
I kind of didn't remember it until I saw like the picture on IMDb.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, okay, yeah, I vaguely recall it.
Yeah.
Like if I said, it got Roddy Piper in it, I gotta look it up.
Oh yeah, Roddy Piper was in it. This was, I think, pre They Live.
Okay.
And a young Claudia Christian was in it too, from who we saw in.
But Sam Jones was in it with his actual voice.
They didn't have the Canadian dude there.
They didn't have the Canadian dude dubbing him. Imagine if that Canadian dude was like his sidekick.
Heck, Michael Berryman was in an episode.
You know, it was a you want to talk about suspend disbelief. Highwayman was that, but Knight Rider, you know, You later get this wonderful buddy cop scenario between Kit and Michael. He doesn't treat Kit like a piece of machinery. He treats him like a person.
Yeah.
Which I think was so key to the chemistry between them too. You know what I mean?
It wasn't Kit was not just a tool. It was literally his partner.
It was his partner who just happened to be like
as Jason, had said, it was, Kit was the brains. Michael was the brawn.
Yes.
Kit was there to do everything that the human couldn't do, and the human was there to do everything the car couldn't do.
Right. Good way. Yeah. Good
Which
point.
made it like this
Like,
perfect.
opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
Like opposable thumbs. Yes. That's exactly right.
No, but I find that interesting because there's so many ways you could have played that. They could have played that. And I know it was the 80s, so you couldn't have played it that way, right? But I get it. Like, I mean, now you're talking about AI.
Yeah.
Well, we're not too far off of that if you have a Tesla.
Yeah.
Well, we got cars that park themselves.
Yeah.
Well, no, that happens too. No, I mean, Tesla's only scratched the surface.
And if you get a senior citizen, you have turbo boost because they'll just fly through any fucking building. It don't matter. You know what I mean?
But it's interesting, the dynamic, because they made the human, Michael Knight, sympathetic to the machine.
Yes.
And I think if it was done again today, it would have been the opposite way. The human would have been like disconnected from it. Like,
well,
you're just a machine, you're doing your thing. And then it was the machine's job to win over the human.
It's funny you say that because the actual reboot, not necessarily a reboot, but the sequel series, which was Knight Rider, which was, Matt looked that up, 2002, I think.
I think so. And I'll tell you right now that...
and it's with Michael Tracker, who eventually becomes Michael Knight. He's the illegitimate son of Michael Knight.
2008.
2008, thank you. But in this case, they didn't have anything with Pontiac, so they
put it in a Mustang.
They put it in a Mustang. But
blasphemy.
Here's where they fuck it up. The Mustang was cool looking though. The Mustang, and I'm a Mustang guy, but the Mustang was cool looking. But the Mustang has the ability to convert itself into other Ford products. So in other words, he can change himself from a Ford Mustang to a Ford F-150. How the fuck that happens, I have no idea.
Yeah, they took it. I'm sorry, but you know what? Quite frankly, too, I saw one episode and I knew I would never watch it again.
Really? I watched the whole series. It was great.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this episode made me never watch it again. He was chasing somebody. They were like in a freaking minivan.
Yeah, and he's chasing a Mustang.
He's this high-tech Mustang, and he's chasing a minivan. He should have been riding up on that minivan's ass, being like, "Come on, where you going? I'm right here."
And pulling a maneuver.
He should have been on that bumper like freaking Clue. You ain't getting away from a Mustang and a minivan, especially not a high-tech Mustang. But maybe you do. Maybe that's why Mustangs suck. I don't know.
No, they don't. No, Mustang kicks ass.
No, I kid.
I'm not a
Mustangs.
Ford fan. But to your point, though, if they did a backstory on the driver in the minivan, they could have justified it, because I've been with drivers that can drive a bucket of shit.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, they open that shit up. I'm like, I remember one day I was on the road with some guy down in Missouri, and it was like this I looked at it was like that scene from Star Wars, like, we're going in that. And man, we were 120, man, and I couldn't believe his maneuverability. That would have been interesting if they had done that, like a little backstory of the driver.
And I'll get you, because too, again, with some of the cars I knew a group of guys that went out to a performance driving school to test out some new cars that were coming out, and the guys that worked there were taking them around the course in the driving school's vans. They're like 15-passenger vans, and these guys from the driving school are doing stuff in this passenger van, this top heavy, big old. These guys would be like, I'd be scared to go do this in my car. I'm being afraid to do this in the car that I'm going to be out here driving, and these guys are doing it in this damn van. I'd be dead in 5 seconds. So yes, but again, I kid. It's just
But yeah, no, from
My
that
love for
perspective
Pontiac
of the
is
show, yeah, but from the perspective of that show, I can see you
Yeah.
disengaging from that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I said this coming on. Like I'm the one guy in this panel that never really watched the series. I'm aware of it, and I'm fascinated by it because I really think that somewhere tucked away in Elon Musk's garage is Kit. I think he has that car. I think he's designed it.
Yeah.
I think it talks to him. I think it keeps him company. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's and it was such an incredible show too. I mean, again, and I mean, for me, obviously, I'm a big gearhead. Always was as a kid. Obviously, we had the Dukes of Hazzard, which we got pretty much as a result of Smokey and the Bandit, and I was already a fan of Smokey and the Bandit. And
I wanted to Trans Am in the worst way after that.
And then this show comes on, and it's like, oh my god, first off, I already love Pontiacs, and it's like, okay, it's another Trans Am. This is super cool, and then at the time, my mother started dating this guy. He had an '81 Trans Am. He eventually became my stepfather. It's another story, but it's like I remember the first time I ever actually met him. He came to pick my mom up to go out on a date, and me and my cousin was over. We're watching Knight Rider.
Yeah.
And we're like, and he's like, oh, I drive a Trans Am. We're like, yeah, cool, but like, does it have turbo boost? And he's like, yeah, because it was an '81 turbo model. Of course it wouldn't. You couldn't hit it and jump on it, but it was like, we're like, it does. We're 9 years old. We're like, oh, cool, I got to see this car. We're running out checking out the car, and it was like then too as a kid, I'm riding around in the back of this Trans Am. And obviously, it's the wrong model year, but it's like it was almost kind of like you're on an adventure with Michael Knight. Riding around in Kit. It was just. Just a major part of my life.
And it's funny that you say that, and we're going to talk more about that, but we're going to come right back. We got a little commercial break here, and we're going to be back talking about more Knight Rider right here on tonight's TV lineup, right here on the DJB Productions Network. And I said that to you, and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Burning Key Cars introduces the Knight Rider, your key to a new kind of speed. Knight Rider Burning Key Car. Now, a Burning Key car captures the spirit of the Knight Rider. It's fast. Knight Rider Burning Key Car. With speed you can barely see. It's awesome. You control it with your key. It's fearsome. Unmerciful. Yeah.
He's the Knight Rider.
Knight Rider Burning Key Car. Your key to a new kind of speed.
Now you can tell that was Matt and his cousin right there, and like
it
was all true. Like he controlled it with his key, and he was able to hit like a stack of checkers and knock them over with his car. So pretty much, your mom was dating the Knight Rider for a split second there, and then married.
Did it work out?
No,
it didn't work out.
For a while, yeah.
For a little while.
They were married for a while. We're not going to talk about how things end.
But okay. Well, no,
it ended much like the show.
Not as but I mean, did he end up getting rid of the car?
Only after they split up, because he eventually he started racing that car. By the time he got rid of that car, that was a 4,000-pound car that was doing the quarter mile in 11.4 seconds at almost 130 mile an hour. Wow. And which for all the gearheads out there,
it was a nice car. I will give him that. It was a nice car. It was a cool car.
When they split, he's starting to have back problems with his back. He wasn't racing anymore, and he sold the car very cheaply, which ticked me off because I just bought a brand new car. And I'm like, man, if I had known 3 months ago you were getting rid of this car and that cheap, I would have bought it.
Yeah, right.
But
so now, before we skip forward to obviously we get the Airwolf spinoff, which is with Lee Van. What's his name? Not Lee Van Cleef. Jan Michael Vincent, and Ernest Borgnine. And they have like a pretty decent episode where Airwolf is featured on Knight Rider. And basically it's almost like it's given that Airwolf is the Knight Rider of the sky, except there is no computer like that. So they never recreate Kit, which is kind of a neat thing, at least as far as the spinoffs are concerned. We'll talk about the other Kit-esque wannabes on the show in just a few moments, but you talking about, we get that, but after the show ends, it was on for 4 years. We get a little bit of a reprieve where we don't have the show on at all. And there was a pilot movie, made for TV movie, which was I think it was, Matt, look that up. I want to say it's Knight Rider 2000.
Knight Rider 2000 in 1991.
Yes. And what it is, it's got the Knight Industry 4000 is the car. It's a, what is it, a Pontiac?
It was a Pontiac Banshee.
Yeah, it was a Pontiac Banshee concept car, yeah. Red.
See if I can quick find that while doing my man in the chair duties here.
Yeah, and let me know, and I'll make it big. And then what happens is, but they go a different direction. Now they do a lot of stuff in this pilot movie, which was it was a movie, made for TV movie, which was real famous back in the 80s to have shows come back for a TV movie just for nostalgic purposes. But it was a backdoor pilot for what would be a new Knight Rider series. But this time I think the problem was they did too many things. They were aggressively trying to write Michael out of the show. Right. So Michael's like very begrudgingly doesn't want to be involved at all, which there's play in that going back to to Knight Rider where he gets married and then she gets killed. And that's why he's like, I don't want to be bothered with doing this anymore, blah, 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 that type of thing. Right. But they make a Knight Industry 4000 car, which ends up being this Banshee. And what they do is they use some parts of Kit's like dismantled in like a warehouse somewhere. And during the course of this movie, and it's a neat movie to watch. It was a fun little popcorn movie and stuff like that. But they kill off certain main characters. I don't want to get into it if you haven't seen it. I mean, granted, it's 91. It's 30 years ago. I mean,
yeah, watch the spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it yet. Spoiler alert. But they kill some people in there that were like in the main show. So you're like, oh, right. And then, we get Kit back in there. But it's in a futuristic time frame where guns are outlawed, so now they can only stun people and stuff like that. But what happens is some cop, a female cop, gets involved in some way, shape, or form, and she gets shot. Not unlike Michael Long did, but they use a computer chip to try and keep her alive. But the computer chip is one of Kit's chips. So that somehow links her to Kit in some way, shape, or form. That's how they kind of do that. And then the proposed scenario was that she was going to be the new Knight Rider, was this girl. And it just was like, in the 80s, in a manly show like that, we weren't having a female lead. It sounds so chauvinistic, but I think that's really what came down to. We were not ready for a gender swap at all on Knight Rider, because Knight Rider was a testosterone built show of crashing cars through things, and the car never gets damaged, etc. So that's the thing. Matt's still working his thing here.
I'm ready for it if you're ready.
Right, I want to make it big, Matt. Here's Matt here.
We have, first off, we'll show you the Knight Industries 4000.
Okay. Yeah, which is it's nice and not nice at the same time.
Yeah. What they did was you can tell this was quickly put together.
Yeah.
Based off of the original Pontiac Banshee concept car.
Right. It almost looks like the Dodge
concept for the fourth generation Trans Am, basically the next generation after Kit.
And if you that image right there, it almost looks like the Dodge Turbo Interceptor from Wraith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is kind of neat.
Oh, from Wraith, the one, one,
So I mean, you can tell they took some of the molds essentially. GM let them use some of the molds for the Banshee, and they changed it up a little bit, and you can tell they did it quick, fast.
Go back to the other picture real quick.
Yeah, let me.
Because this is the cool picture, and you go back to the other one, and it's like, oh look, it's a Cavalier.
Yeah, that's because they were only, but you see, that's because they were only shooting that from the front.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
Yeah,
no way where they were shooting that from the sides.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, the back of that car looks like something I put together in shop class.
Exactly. I mean, but it was a neat little concept.
You were talking about the car. Can you flip back to the other picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's right. That looks like the car from the Wraith.
Yeah.
It was a Dodge that later morphed,
Yeah.
and I mean, within a couple of years, it morphed into the Viper,
Yes.
the Dodge Viper. Which,
Yes.
by the way, can I tell you, absolutely amazing.
Amazing. Amazing.
Dodge Viper, man. You don't see
But,
it around anymore.
But like, the funny thing about that was, it was a cool car. It was a cool thing. You're like, at this point in 91, like, yeah, I'm ready for a new Knight Rider. And it's a sin to say, but in a testosterone driven show like that, I don't think the world was ready for a gender swap. And I think that's what killed it. I think had there been maybe a guy, I think it at least would have got picked up.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. I think gearheads, like going back to what Matt said earlier, gearheads who were really into this show because of the car were like, no, she ain't doing this. She's not. No, stop. Need a man behind it. It's very chauvinistic.
Yeah.
But that's what was happening back then with this show.
But I'm going to interject this idea too, which is like, if you think about the time frame, well, it's much years later. So
yeah,
I'm wrong on that, but I think it's also about what is established from the beginning.
Right.
So, in other words, like if you look at the first Alien movie with Ripley, she was the hero, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Alien was 1979.
Yeah, but you know what though? Here's the difference though. Sigourney Weaver was hot.
That was established. It was an established character.
Yeah.
So I don't know so much.
Matt, if you could bring up a picture of the girl from Knight Rider 2000. The difference with what you're saying though, Chris, is that Sigourney Weaver was hot, and Sigourney Weaver to this day is still hot. And she played
it's also about the character that they're carrying.
Well, right? Yeah. And this character here, she was not someone that was, I don't think, was like leading man attractive. That's not even the right term.
Well, I mean, no, there's leading man quality, yeah.
But I don't think this girl was. She kind of looked like that Beth Armstrong or whatever her name was. I'm gonna bring Matt Big again. Matt, you got it?
Not yet. I'm just looking because I'm going to try and find her picture from IMDb because I can't find.
Picture.
I found one, but they're not good. I want to.
Well,
find
go on. Get her name.
Shot.
Well, get her name and go on Google. If you get our name, go on Google and just do image. You'll be quick.
Yeah. Susan Norman.
Susan Norman.
Yeah.
Susan Norman.
Susan Norman.
And then what happens is she just wasn't a likable character. And that's
the thing, right?
Yeah. And then they killed off a certain character. I'm trying not to spoil it for Jason. But you know what I mean? But like it's like they kill off a certain character in the show, and then she's on there, and you're like, you're not Michael Knight. And then Michael Knight's just like, I don't want to be bothered with this. You can tell, like, it's almost like David Hasselhoff was like, I don't want to be bothered with the show. You know what I mean? Like that's how Michael's portrayed. It's almost like, how like Harrison Ford was in that last Star Wars movie, and it wasn't like Han Solo. It was Harrison Ford playing Han Solo.
Here we go. Here she is, Susan Norman.
Not that attractive.
No.
You shoot her in the face. You know what I mean? Give her the Michael Long job and just get it done with and just be over. You know what I mean? Like she just
long job.
Yeah, the Michael Long job. Michael Long job.
But I think Chris does make a very good point though. You said, with established characters.
Yes, it's true.
If you would have maybe had the show and you want to transition, if you have her as a secondary character and really build her up. So, but just listen to hear me out. It may have worked better if you would have had a long-running season where she's a secondary character, and you build her up and build her up and build the character up, and then eventually you slowly phase out Michael Knight,
right?
Or have something traumatic happen. people are already invested in the show and already now invested in this other character.
Now, granted, this
versus you bring this other character in that's, I'm not feeling it.
This was 91, right? This was 91, but it's basically the late 80s in a sense. We're still getting remnants of the late 80s here. And if we think about it for a second, and we'll talk about this on another show, but The Greatest American Hero, the very last episode, he gives it off to yet another gender swap. He gives the suit to a woman because David Hinckley wants to get off and go off with Pam and stop being a superhero. And the network was like, fuck this, we're out. It's canceled. You know what I mean? That's it. We're not going to pick it up. And it's because the ratings were like anything in the one thing I could say about the 80s. And even though this was 91, it's picking up something from the 80s is that it was a testosterone driven decade.
Oh yeah.
Really, really was. And that's not like my perception. That really, the 80s was balls to the wall, pedal to the metal. How about it, man? Every movie was race cars and fighting and explosions, and it was action, and there was no sensitivity in the 80s. That's why our generation, basically, that's why our generation doesn't really understand or just well with the more modern generations of sensitivity and PC. That's why we're always complaining about, in my day, we didn't worry about this, because we really were desensitized during the 80s. We really, really were. And
coming from my standpoint, that was the height of my musical career. Yeah. Everything was on 10. Actually, everything was on 11 all the time. Yeah. We did all the drugs. We did all the booze. We played the loudest we could. We grew our hair the longest we could. We did other things.
And didn't care. And didn't care.
My point is that, it was, you're right. It wasn't, look at Rambo 3. Yeah. That epitomizes the 80s. Yeah. He gets a rocket shot through the side of him and he goes, all right, I'm going to take care of this myself. And he literally reignites the rocket to eject from his liver. And he continues through the movie. Like nothing says 80s more than a guy who gets shot with a rocket into the liver. And he's like, that's a flesh wound. I got that.
That completely outdoes Chuck Norris and Lone Wolf McQuade coming out of the ground and drinking beer as he's dying. But that's
not beyond the realm of possibility. That's
what I mean? But once again, you're talking about like, here was a show that had a possibility and then just didn't because of the fact that I think it just wasn't the right time. Yeah. It really wasn't. And I think maybe
I'll concede to that you're right. The timing
I think the timing was wrong.
But to the other point, though, that's really important is that there was, now, and we see that now. I think we see that now more than ever.
Yeah.
Where we see characters that are going to move in and, be built. Once an audience is vested with a character, I don't think gender matters as long as there's, I'm sure people want to identify and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I never really thought about it that way. I always thought about is this good? Is it good?
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it never crossed my mind watching the Alien movies. I never sat there and went,
that's a girl.
That's a woman that survives this. And then watching the franchise, which kept getting better, in my opinion.
Right.
And she was still the main character. And it never, it didn't matter to me, but I can understand in the 80s that it would. That, we have to have a dude with a leather coat behind an AI that's, going to do this. But I think it's changed. I think it's changed a lot now.
Now, definitely. Definitely. And it's all how you approach it. It's all how you deliver it. And
but that's the key, though, is it has to be good. Yeah. Like we saw what happened with the Ghostbusters, the reboot.
Oh yeah,
that reboot,
with all the females, and it flopped.
Yeah,
and everyone was like, "Oh, well, that's a problem because they're women. They didn't because they're women." Like, no, it had nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
it was poorly written.
Yeah,
it was poorly written.
I finally got around to watching it when it came on cable.
Yeah,
and I watched it and I said, you know what? If there was no other Ghostbusters movie, I wouldn't have said it was a great movie. But I've been like, okay, that was fun for a
well,
couple
in a
hours.
sense, Matt.
You know, but
in a sense, Matt, in that world, there was no other Ghostbusters movie.
I know, but I'm saying, but in our world, there was no other there were other Ghostbusters movies.
Right.
So you're already comparing it against what has been out before.
Right.
And it went through this whole thing of like, it was just compared to what we had before, it wasn't that good. You know, they relied too much of the slapstick and in-your-face humor, which, and again,
was
we're
funny.
kind of going off the tangent.
There was some
but
funny
when you
stuff.
Look at,
Yeah.
But you look at the original Ghostbusters, and the funny stuff in the original Ghostbusters movies were all very subtle.
It was very intelligently written.
Yeah. You know, it's like they're in the elevator and they've never turned the proton packs on. And it's like, okay, well, switch me on. You know, Egon switches Ray on, and it's like he's backing over into the corner of the elevator. Like, if something goes on with this nuclear, you know, proton pack, being 6 inches further away in the corner of the elevator is going to help you. It was funny as hell, but it was like so subtle.
Subtle, but that's artistry.
And again,
and you know what?
the
You know why
one,
that?
And everything was all in your face. They're pushing the joke. They're here's the joke. Here's the joke. Here's the joke. And it's like
because
just let
the
it flow.
actors are not given that room.
Right.
In other words, they went into that elevator shaft with the original Ghostbusters and they played that scene. They probably did 15 takes, and they played that scene and they improvised every take. Like, how would you react this way? But when you're doing a reboot, you're almost taking a template. And they're like, okay, well, let's do something different. And instead of a director saying, let's play this scene out, how would you naturally react to this? I studied acting for so long and did so many improv classes that we would take one scene and in 5 different scenarios, they were a completely different outcome. But that doesn't work now. It's like, oh, here's the script, do this, and like you said,
it also helps that the guy that wrote the movie is one of the actors in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, he's
but he also had the sense because he
Yeah.
came from a skit-based background. He also had the sense to say, like, you know, if he's in the scene and one of them is backing up against the, you know, like, oh, I don't know if I want to turn this on. He's not going to yell cut. He's going to let's play this out. How is this going to work out? It's just like I am when I'm on stage. I always, you know, I get worried looks from band members like, oh, you're going longer on this? I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Well, in 1991, we have that flop wannabe comeback for Knight Rider. It takes them till 2008 to come back with another Knight Rider proposed scenario, which I was very excited about it.
So was I.
We got a little break here, and then we're going to talk more about that when we come back right here on tonight's TV lineup.
Wow, 19,000! For you. It's off!
What is our next mission? Push the license plate. Knight 2000 voice car says 6 different things. Sequence may vary, batteries not included. And it comes with a Michael Knight action figure.
Scanner indicates danger ahead. Kid, save me! Hurry! This was Knight's lucky day.
The Knight 2000 voice car comes with a Michael Knight action figure from Kenner.
Yeah.
So when it was Michael Knight's lucky day.
Hey, real quick, Danny. We were talking about this last night a little bit, but here, put this up a second, because again, we're talking about Knight Rider. We're showing them, Knight Rider toy commercials, but this is what how big the show still is today. This is a recent Hot Wheels. There's the KITT Super Pursuit mode.
Look at that.
Destroyed by the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
We've got this company doing Car.
Yeah,
which was the prototype, the Knight Industries.
Yeah, and Matt, I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Robot.
Matt, I'm glad you're bringing this up because Car was the first. He was the prototype for KITT, and Car was a pissed off dude. And then here's Michael Knight. Here's David Hasselhoff wanting to get some screen time on Knight Rider. Look at that. That's cool as shit.
That's cool. Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. As soon as Funko put out this and Smokey and the Bandit, it was like, oh yeah, I'm spending money today.
You know what I mean? But you get Car now. Now what you're talking about is now a identical car with the same powers, quote unquote, as KITT. Same capabilities, I should say. But now, but he's pissed. The AI is pissed, and he's in a bad mood, and he's just really just like a rotten thing. And I forget how they defeated Car. I think Car's I think
I'll have to go back and
Cars.
watch it.
I think the problem was that Cars' invulnerability was not to grade as
Yeah.
Kit's was, and it was
Yeah.
a different
Because again,
formula.
it was the prototype, so it
Right.
was there. It could take some damage, but nothing.
It was like
way
the Death Star
different.
having that fucking hole that you can shoot the little tube.
Yeah.
The whole fucking thing up. It was kind of like that. The other thing we get is Garth.
Garth
Garth
Knight,
Knight.
who Michael was, his face was reconstructed to look like Garth.
That was Wilton's son.
Yes, Wilton's son.
It was Wilton's son who all he was he had a goatee, he had an evil goatee, much
Yeah.
like evil Spock did when they wanted to have mention in Star Trek.
It was like, you had to make the evil version. Like all you had to do was put a goatee on him.
Like
It
that's
was like-
Evil Matt right now. Evil Matt is on
Yes,
our
this is
show
Evil
right
Matt.
now. It's
This is
Evil
Evil
Matt.
Matt.
When he shaves, he'll be good
Yeah.
Matt. but yeah, we
Good
get
Matt doesn't
Garth.
exist. I killed him.
But Goliath was the truck.
Yes, Garth
And-
creates his own, and he builds it into a semi, which has again has AI
Vulnerability.
It's got some of that, the molecular bonded shell
Yes.
to it, and that was just cool, and it was actually, and again, it harkened back to what really made the show cool.
Yeah.
When you think about it, because we had not only Michael and Kit going up against normal villains who were just kind of doing kind of like white collar criminals or trying to do going against the government and being almost like subversive groups and semi-terrorism, but they also gave us true opponents for Kit to go that were a struggle.
Yes.
It was a worthy opponent of Michael, Michael's intellect and his abilities and the Car's ability.
Right.
We had Goliath, we had Car, we had the oh god, I forget it was the one where they actually destroyed Kit because somebody that was attached to the
They
Night
did
organization
something with
defected.
they did something with the bondage or something like that.
Yeah,
where
they
made
created a
defective.
formula. They sprayed they lured Michael out to a spot.
Yeah.
They had a truck with this chemical in it, and it looked like it was just cleaning the streets. And it sprays Kit, and it breaks down
The molecular bonding.
the molecular bonded shell.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then they hit him with this. It's basically almost like a tank, essentially.
Yeah.
With this big old ramrod on it, and they just absolutely destroy Kit. And that was where the ratings were starting to slip off. They knew they had to do something different. They were starting to, like you said, it never did bad, but
Right.
ratings, just like any show that's on,
Oh, yeah.
start slipping a little bit, and then we got to do something. And they rebuild Kit, and they bring it back then with super pursuit mode, with and it'll do like 240 miles an hour to the point where it's like when you're using super pursuit mode, if you got it's got like air brakes that would deploy out of it,
Yeah.
the emergency braking system,
But the best thing it had was that little C button. If you remember, it had that little C button, which was
and it would turn
rarely
into a
used.
convertible.
It just turned into a convertible.
It was awesome.
That's all you needed.
Yeah.
Fuck all the other
hard
shit. Let's
top
make
of
it.
the molecular bonded shell becomes a
Let's make it a convertible. Let's make it a convertible because Michael Knight's hair was going to protect him. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't gonna.
Well, it was the '80s. We all were using a lot of product to keep it.
Yeah.
It was a
No
bit of
doubt.
a helmet.
We go from mechanic Bonnie, who was kind of like the quasi love interest of Michael. Not really.
Yeah. There was always a very low level
tension
there.
Yeah.
Where it's like it could potentially, but it's never enough
she-
to make you think like it's going to go there.
She leaves. You get April, who is just ridiculously hot, and you're like, there is no way in hell this girl knows how to fix this car. She's too hot. She's too hot to fix this car. Once again, it was the '80s, and men were like, no, this girl does not know how to do. But she's too hot. She's like a pinup girl. And then Bonnie comes back. And then we get RC, who does he's the one that does the super pursuit mode.
Yeah, he's the one that helps them build the super.
And he's the one that initiates the convertible mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he wanted them to have style. I think one of my favorite episodes is when he joins a demolition derby, because it was a like an undercover thing, and they put the stars on the car.
Yeah.
And like Kit's like all pissed off because he's like, oh, this is so beneath me. you know what I mean? Like, which is great.
Well, there was also that was cool too because I mean they had Kit having a sense of humor to it because I still remember there was like one episode too that there was a picture of him like in a magazine or something. Yeah. It was like the centerfold,
right?
And they're like, hey, and they're putting it in front of the scanner like so he can like see it, whatever. And he's like, that's great. He's like, but can you do me one favor? And they're like, what? It's like, please remove that staple from my bumper.
yeah.
Because he's just like, no, wait a minute.
No.
You're just going with the flow here. You can't have no staple in the middle of the bumper, dude.
Now, we get through all that. Now, the remake, or it's not really a remake, it's a continuation, is Knight Rider in 2008 with a Michael Tracker, who eventually becomes Michael Knight towards the end of season 1. It only is one season, unfortunately. But in this, we have a Mustang, a Ford Mustang. It is supposedly Kit, but obviously it's not voiced by the same guy.
Yeah.
In this case, it's an uncredited voiceover from Val Kilmer.
Oh,
wow.
Val Kilmer is the voice of Kit in the 2008 remake. You can look that up. I don't know if it'll tell you in IMDb or what have you.
Oh, let's see, because IMDb
but Val Kilmer
pretty good about that as far as
Val Kilmer
cast and, like uncredited.
But Val Kilmer was uncredited, but he was the voice of Kit in the 2008 remake of Knight Rider.
They usually have the uncredited at the end of the credits here, so let's see.
Right. And then, but that's a little tidbit of information for you, is that it was Val Kilmer as Kit. The body style of that Mustang was not going to be sold.
Val Kilmer.
Yep. It was not going to be sold. Now, I'm not sure it's sold now because the show's over, but the body style they used for Kit on that Mustang, that front end, was at that time not to be sold at all by Ford.
That eventually got worked into, I think, one of the GT 500s later.
Probably, yeah. I was going to say eventually they were going to use it.
Yeah.
But in this one, I think the biggest problem I had with it is that we did not have the same interaction that Michael had with Kit that this Michael has with Kit.
Mm-hmm.
Because now this show was all about what Kit could do. And I'm not talking about like the human relying on the car to get him out of shit, but the show itself, rather than building the relationship between Kit and Michael, because Michael Tracker got into it because he was after somebody. He was a big time agent of some sort.
He was an FBI agent.
Right.
Veteran, whatever.
Right. Yeah. But he doesn't necessarily build a relationship with the car. The car is a tool that and they relied on the car to do these amazing things. It changed color. It changed shape. Like I said, it went from a Ford Mustang to an F-150. So obviously it was a Ford sponsored show. Yeah. So they went with Ford cars.
It was more or less just like a giant commercial for Ford.
It really, really was.
Because if you even think back to the original Knight Rider, whenever they talked about the car, there was this guy, it was like, there's this guy in this, in this black Trans Am. They always referred to anybody who referred to the car, referred to it as a black T-top.
Yeah, exactly.
Pontiac was never mentioned. Trans Am was never mentioned. It was always referred to as a black T-top.
And understand that was because they didn't, by doing that, they didn't have to pay any kind of rights.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, you're getting backed by GM and Pontiac. I mean, they're supplying the cars, but it didn't feel like it was a commercial for the Trans Am.
Exactly.
It was called, this is a cool, popular car. This is what we're going to use. So people actually, because we know that aesthetically, people are going to enjoy the car.
Right. Exactly.
But we're not trying to sell more units. If that's what happens for Pontiac, and General Motors, great. But it was more like, what looks cool? What is one of the coolest cars look on the road today? Right. And we want something to be a performance-driven car. Mm-hmm. And right there, at that point, other than a Corvette.
And the other
the Trans Am was the shit.
The Trans Am was the king. Now, the Chevy guys will argue the Camaro, but I'll say it right now. If you're a Chevy guy and love the Camaro, I love the Camaro too. But name me one iconic Camaro from pop culture. Name me one.
True.
Versus the Trans Am, you got Smokey and the Bandit. You've got, obviously Knight Rider. You've got the one that's in, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
There's so many cars out there that can sit there and say iconic status, and I can't name, unfortunately, one Camaro. But
well, you know what they did too, though? They made it so the car was something that the everyday user, the watcher, could go out and buy and potentially have. So that was a big thing too. You were able to relate with it because, like, oh yeah, my car, as a 50-year-old man, I can pretend that I'm Knight Rider. I mean, it's like, so I mean, like that's the kind of weird shit that they played off of. I mean, because it's a gearhead show in a sense,
But, but as you said though, for the
but like, with that, I mean, I think in my perception is the lack of relationship between the car and Michael.
It is what truly made the original special.
Yeah. They even had David Hasselhoff on the first episode come in because he's the illegitimate father of this Michael Tracker. And he basically came in to kind of like do this like, hey, I'm David Hasselhoff, like which is what he does. He does that like
my endorsement to the.
I'm giving my endorsement to the series. Yeah. And it was a decent show. I liked it. I actually enjoyed watching it. I think it definitely was not Knight Rider of the 80s, but it was of 2008, a show that I could watch. I think had they been able to go into season 2, potentially could have fixed a couple things, so on and so forth, but it was an NBC show, and NBC, much like Fox and like CBS, they rarely have confidence in any show that they put out. So it's one of those things.
Unfortunately, most of them are major networks. Unfortunately, I think you mentioned Fox. I think Fox overall does a little better job of it. But most of these networks now, it's like they don't give these shows a chance to breathe.
No.
I mean, great. Like, you got to put it out there, and it's like if it's not an immediate hit, well then we're pulling it.
Understand though, what this show is about that we're doing right now, tonight's TV lineup. It's that television told us what to do, not the other way around. And I think somewhere along the line with advertising and stuff like that over the years and the decades, etc., somehow either that did swap or the perception swapped. I personally think the perception swapped because if television continually puts something on, and we've already have proof of this, that's not a great show, but they just keep putting it on, well, I'm going to fucking watch it because there ain't nothing else to fuck on. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, so I'm not going to turn off my TV and say, oh, I'm done with television. Now I'm going to go to radio. That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I want to put up with whatever's on television. Bottom line, I'll change the channel maybe, but like that, what it is what it is. A case in point, I watch Cartoon Network, and they have marathons of the same 4 shows all the time. 2-3 hour marathons of the same show all day long. Whereas before they used to have a catalog that was hundreds and hundreds of different cartoons, right? But I still put on Cartoon Network. Okay. You know what I mean? Because it's what's on. There's nothing else on. So television still tells me what to do in a sense, because I'm an avid TV watcher. And, if the networks would just have that kind of confidence in the show, granted, I know it comes down to where, if the show is going out, I think Ford would still be putting money into it if they're getting advertisement. And bottom line, what are they going to not? Oh, you know what? You're not perceiving our car, our brand. Shut the fuck up. Of course they are. It's Knight Rider. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So, like, in that sense. But I think where it got unbelievable is that the car is turning into a truck and then back into a car. You know what I mean? That kind of bullshit was like, I can't even suspend disbelief.
Yeah.
Because now it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
They
took it too far.
Way too far. You know what I mean? Maybe if they turned the Mustang into a what was the Ford? What was the van?
The Aerostar.
The Aerostar. Maybe they turned it into an Aerostar. Like, I want to see, like, if there's like a mode in Kit for him, like he can change his paint color and stuff like that, where it's not a stealth mode, but it's like an incognito mode.
Yeah.
Make him turn into like a Pinto. Yeah, at least that's more,
something totally unassuming.
Yeah, totally unassuming. A black Pinto with that little vroom, vroom in the front.
I don't know, man. It's like turning it into a Pinto or a Gremlin.
Right.
Gremlin car. That actually would stand out now today.
Yeah.
If you turn your car into a Pinto today, I tell you right now, you'd be pulled over.
And if you're running for the cops and you're in this black turbo Mustang, right? And all of a sudden, you're this like green Pinto,
a green Gremlin,
and you're shooting black smoke out you're shooting black and white smoke out the tailpipe. I mean, come on, I wouldn't stop that guy. I feel like that guy's got enough problems. You know what I mean?
You would stop somebody in a DeLorean, though.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Before he goes 88 or 55. Right. What do you mean? 55, 88? 88, right?
Yeah. Well, it's ironic about those cars is, I used to drive a DeLorean.
Yeah.
And, it's great. It's a stainless steel body with a Volvo engine. That's really all it is. That's all it ever was. But the funny thing about it is that it had this mechanism he built into it that you could never burn the clutch or grind the gears.
Huh.
So if you're driving, right, and you wouldn't, if you were in, say, third and you needed to shift to fourth and you didn't shift, you were trying to like go tack into the red, the car shuts down.
Oh, geez.
The car has an internal kill switch where it just shuts down. So I was hanging out with a friend of mine. I'm like, let's put it to the test, So I had that thing tacking into the red at third gear, and all of a sudden, I'm coasting. I'm like, oh my God, it works. Yeah.
That's crazy, guys.
So you could never burn out that gear because the car had a kill switch on it. It was cool.
There have been talks about a Knight Rider movie for years, none of which are coming to fruition. I would love to go see a Knight Rider movie. I think that would be fantastic. I think it would be a really neat thing. As long as they didn't cheese it up like they kind of did with A-Team. Right, A-Team, I think they kind of cheesed it a little bit.
It was still entertaining, but
Yeah, I think Knight Rider needs to be a serious movie there, not a comedy. I think a lot of times they take these things like, oh, let's make it funny. And that's where the problem is. Not everything needs to be a comedy and make fun of it. You know what I mean?
And they seem to be doing that with everything. I mean, when they remade Baywatch, the Brady Bunch, like name it, they turn it into a comedy, which a lot of times it works.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, it
really doesn't.
It
really doesn't.
It comes down to the director. You need Quentin Tarantino to direct it.
Yeah. You do.
Make it work.
Make it really.
It's a shadowy world of a man who does not exist. Let's
I make George Clooney Michael Knight.
Oh,
I would fucking go for that, dude. I can honestly. I'm not a big fan of George Clooney, but I would make George Clooney Michael Knight. Dye his hair and make him Michael Knight.
It's got to be Tom Cruise.
You know what? You're dead on. Well, no. You know why? Ethan Hunt looks too much like Michael Knight. I think it would be too much.
Tom Cruise.
I think Tom Cruise. They would say, "Oh, this is just an Ethan Hunt ripoff." I think, but Tom Cruise would be a great thing. I'd make Ryan Reynolds.
Immediately, Tom Cruise means I'm not watching it.
Tom Cruise is the driver, but the voice, it's got to be oh God, what was he? The Lincoln Lawyer. What was the actor's name?
Oh, Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey is the car. Hey, we're just driving.
The car is high.
Don't worry about it, man. Just be one with me, Tom. We'll do this.
There's a wall in front of us. No, don't worry about it. It's all good.
That's what you need.
We all have walls in front of us.
You need that visionary to cast it right.
Yeah, we all have walls in front of us. No, we literally have a wall in front of us.
How about Morgan Freeman as Kit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you could do more.
Fuck it. Do Samuel L. Jackson. Let him curse and everything.
No. Well, Samuel L. Jackson would be a good one. Christopher Walken.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, Kit, if you keep driving that way, the tone is so wrong. I tell you, really, make a left. And if you don't make a left, I'm going to stab your eye out with a soldering gun.
I really think we should go to Turbo Boost. All right, guys.
Turbo Boost.
Guys, right down below you see that it's www.djbproductionsnetwork.com. That takes you right to the YouTube channel. You can go ahead and subscribe right there. Plenty of playlists. This is on our Geeks and Nerds playlist under. I'm sorry. This is under special interest towards the bottom there. This is tonight's TV lineup. We have a Geeks and Nerds playlist for those of you like superhero stuff and sci-fi stuff. And we also have a wrestling stuff as well. We had a great time today talking about Knight Rider.
One of my favorites.
With today being October 1st, our next episode will be here in October. We're going to be talking about made for television movie because it is a scary type of season. We're going to be talking about Salem's Lot on the next episode right here on tonight's TV lineup. Yeah. So be prepared for that. Salem's Lot coming up on tonight's TV lineup for Chris Gordon, for Jason and Matt. My name is Danny J. Until next time, we'll see you next same bat time, same bat channel. Everybody, I hope you have a great day, guys. And I'm stalling because I'm looking for something.
the beauty of
your live
streaming. If
guys,
you've seen previous episodes, it looks all polished. It's all fake.
It's all fake. This is what we cut out. Guys, thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys had a great time. Make sure you go to the channel and join us next time for Salem's Lot right here on tonight's TV lineup.
This concludes our broadcast day for WDJB Productions.